This is Wade, and you are in Wade World. So, if you watched the first video Wade did about Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, you would be somewhat familiar with where the theme of this spoken word is going. And if you're not, the short answer is that we will focus on waste. Especially, we will take today on Wade World the question of, has Christianity helped its converts? We could start it from Judaism. Has Judaism helped its converts? But because the last video, the first video dealing with these, specifically answered the way Judaism has most effectively helped its converts and how it behaves, we can take that as the basis of the first video and has Judaism helped its converts. So today we will talk about, has Christianity helped its converts? Now, because all these three religions are descended from Judaism, and Judaism is a religion that from the beginning has focused on the ability to convert different groups of people, different races of people, and they'll all be cool in heaven, in Jewish heaven, or if Jews say they don't believe in heaven, whatever the end result is after death. So that is Judaism's basic philosophy, that everybody from all races across racial differences can be converted and find salvation through the God of the Jews. This is interesting because this means that the religion is not race specific, it transcends race. And for most of its history, Judaism was like that until the 9th century when the Turkic Khazars, who were a mix of majorly Turkic and Eastern European genetics, converted to Judaism, and then they basically made it difficult to convert to Judaism, which is as it should be for any religion, because a religion that is divorced from race is not going to survive because it just ignores natural law. You might believe in God and you might believe everybody will find salvation through God, but that also means that you believe that God created the universe and He created the world. And the natural law is nothing but God's law, the Creator's law. So you're saying that you can transcend natural law through God is like saying, I'm not going to follow your rules, God, because I believe in you. It's stupid and nonsensical. Same way, Orthodox Christianity and the very few countries that are practicing it also make it hard to convert because they are very, very tied to races. Armenian Orthodox, Russian Orthodox, Greek Orthodox, and remember this, it says Russian Orthodox, Greek Orthodox, Armenian Orthodox. It doesn't say Orthodox, just like Catholics and Protestants like to say Catholic, Protestant. Well, there is a reason for that. So now that we've covered the point that Judaism is the root of these three religions, and it just has this philosophy like, we can convert everybody. We also have to look at where this philosophy came from. This philosophy came from, if you are going to have a religion that says, my God is the only God and there are no other gods, you're basically established from the get-go a strategy of conquest and superiority. That's it. You might argue about it, that you're not superior, you're just trying to help people, fine, but that is moral superiority that you're coming with. Like, this is my God. Also, most theologians, almost all theologians, do not understand that even the Jewish religion and Christianity and Islam is the result of one God among many Babylonian and Mesopotamian gods winning the war, theological war. Even in the Bible, it says, God who ruled over the assembly of gods. So this came from a theological myth of many gods. And it makes sense because if you have a population that is worshipping many gods, uniting them is not so easy, right? Because they have sects of, for example, let's take Greek gods. You have sects of Zeus, sects of Athena, sects of Apollo, sects of Demeter, sects of Poseidon. So how, if you want to unite all of them for like a unified military campaign or a unified nation, it's pretty hard. So if you just declare like, hey, this God is the only God, that means that he's been basically defeated every other God and he's one. And over time, you can just forget all the other gods. That unites people and it's strategically very useful. So this is the nature of Judaism. Now, Christianity is a Jewish theological debate. And because it's a Jewish theological debate proposed by Jesus, who, for the purposes of reality, we will take as not just the Son of God, as Christians say, but the Son of God in a very specific genetic combination, right? So he was a mix of a Jewish mother, which by definition makes him a Jew, and an angel, if you believe in theology, or a white man, if you believe in reality, or some esoteric analysis of history, not just esoteric, actually, realistic analysis of history. So anyway, so Jesus is exceptional in that he basically did the thing that the Jewish religion itself doesn't really promote. And the Jewish religion tends to attract a certain kind of people. For example, if you read the Quran, the Bible, and the Torah, and then you read the Talmud, the reaction to you reading the Talmud and what the rabbis are saying and about being the chosen ones and a bunch of other stuff that you can go into it, read into it, attracts a certain kind of person, right? Now, this kind of person is usually not going to be self-introspective about the failings of their race or religion. They're just going to be like, we're superior. And as human psychology works, that's where your thinking stops. Like, we're superior, we're the best, that's it. Everything else, all the other arguments that other people make are invalid. So you can't have self-introspection if you just start off, we're chosen, we're superior. Because that means you're perfect, there's nothing to improve. It's stagnation, it's the death of evolution and adaptation. Christianity, on the other hand, Jesus Christ specifically self-introspected about the Jewish religion, and that's why he heavily criticized the Jewish religion. And he was among 100 other rabbis running around Israel that time, declaring themselves the king of the Jews, the Messiah. But he was the most dangerous because he had a revolutionary way of thought and revolutionary ideas, which the people who were attracted to Judaism did not like. And of course, they crucified him for it. But beyond that, the majority of his teachings come from Judaism, which again says you can convert everybody regardless of race. So basically, break God's natural law because you trust in God. It's nonsensical. It, again, has the same philosophy. Ours is the only God. All of the gods are false. If you don't worship our God, you're going to hell. Not just if you don't worship our God, you're not going to find salvation. Like you are going to literally go to hell. There is a special mythology that Christians have come up with for the people who didn't worship Christ before Christ was born, right? This would be the Romans before they became the Holy Roman Empire, the Christian Roman Empire, the Greeks, the Spartans, the Mesopotamians, the Babylonians, the ancient Egyptians. So all of these, and many other, the Hittites, the Akkadians, all of these were European races. The racial structure of these races is exactly the same as the racial structure of Europeans today, but they had to carve out a special exception. Oh, they didn't know Jesus wasn't born, and they were praising different gods. They were in purgatory, and Jesus came down and took them up to heaven. So anyway, because Christianity is descended from Judaism, it inherits the flaws of Judaism, or you can say the features of Judaism, in that it ignores race to its own detriment. It says we are the chosen ones, and if you don't believe in our God, you're going to hell. And it's basically a religion that starts off, so Judaism doesn't convert these days, so they're out of the picture mostly. Christianity, the majority of Christianity is Catholicism and other non-denominational nonsense. And the first approach is missionaries, where they try to send you to different places and convince people to convert to Christianity. And the third is conquest. Islam is like straight up conquest. The convincing part is very time period is very small, and then it's like you're converted that. We're going to deal with the features and benefits and disadvantages of Islam in another video. So anyway, you have to understand that even the approach of Christianity is descended from having a high verbal ability, which is based, if you're in the United States, you will understand that most of the standardized tests like the GMAT, the SATs and all that, they don't really test if you can build a rocket engine or if you are a high thinker. They build on how, they test how good you are at manipulating situations, manipulating people into doing what you want. So verbal ability, the ability to convince people. Now, if you go back in history, the way Christianity spread, there wasn't some revelation to your ancestors. It was a bunch of Jews who were followers of Jesus Christ who were persecuted, or who were persecuting Christians and changed to Christianity. Because again, Christianity is a theological debate in Judaism. That's it. It has nothing to do with your blood or race if you're not from that some Judea, Samaria area of the Roman Empire at that time. It has nothing to do with it. You might come to some grand conclusion that there is God, there is a creator. And yes, there is a creator of the universe. But that is not what your Jewish, Christian, or Islamic, or most other religions, Bibles or Torahs or Gitas or holy books or Qurans tell you. You are confusing the truth that there is a creator of the universe with the fact that your book tells you it's your God that's the creator. No, your God is just one of many gods below the creator. That creator isn't even mentioned in most of your books, but you confuse it. And that's the way, again, these religions are designed to confuse you. So, Christianity spread by persecution of Jews by other Jews who were like, you should not follow this sect. These Jews who were being persecuted were called Christians. They were like, we're going to follow this sect. And they basically went around all over a bunch of different countries. The Middle East used to be mostly Christian, and they convinced the kings. They didn't convince the average person. Do you understand? They didn't convince your parents or your ancestors. They convinced the king to convert. And Jewish people, give them whatever epithet you want, but throughout history, that religion tends to attract people who are extremely good at convincing people. That's also why they're good at trade. It's about convincing the other party that the deal is good for them. So these Jewish people converted your kings, who then forcibly converted the entire kingdom. Because the king always converts like this. This is the religion of the kingdom. This is the religion of the realm. If you do not follow this religion, you will be killed. And that is the reason, for example, Christmas falls on the 25th of December. 25th of December is not at all when Jesus Christ was born. But the 25th of December, and this date is not special, because in Orthodox religion, it's the 7th of January. But this is a very old European holiday called Yuletide. And again, it's in the middle of winter. Why? Because as a ruler, you understand that if you're going to be, especially in Europe, going to be in 8 months of winter where the sun's going to be out, you're not going to have vitamin D generation. So you're going to literally have a fall in hormones and be depressed. You're going to be drinking. You're going to be basically in a very, very bad mood for like 8 months of the year. So you have to give the populace something to give them hope. Like, hey, the days are short. It's really, really cold. The sun's not here. You don't have vitamin D, so you're depressed and your hormones are down. But hey, let's celebrate this big celebration in the middle of winter, December, late December, early January. And then if you go back further, a lot of Europeans, and these are old Orient traditions that are very common across the old world, they also celebrate the end of winter. For example, the Russians call it Maslenitsa, which is literally they burn winter. And the Indians have it, and a lot of Eastern European countries have it as well. Now, this is not mentioned anywhere in the Bible, right? But it will coincide with another holiday in the Bible, which would be probably Easter. Could be wrong on this, but again, you have to understand this is seasonal holidays that were co-opted. In fact, if you go down through history, all of the massively Christian countries, including Italy today, that was Rome, Spain, France, Germany, even Russia, there was massive resistance from the ground level because you are basically telling people, remember, you're not trying to convince people, you're trying to basically tell people like, hey, this is a religion and that's what we're following now. So you're telling them to get away from their racial gods that they have worshipped for thousands of years based on the message that you are saying, like, hey, this is our God and that's the only God. And nobody really asked, like, is this our racial God? Is he any of the gods that we're worshipping? No, it's the God of some desert tribe. But, we're supposed to worship him. So, under these conditions, where Christianity is descended from Judaism, ignores reality about race, ignores natural order, basically tries to convince you first or then force you and threatens you with hell if you don't believe in their God, which is not even most of the people who are Christians today. The God that they're talking about isn't even their racial God, their ancestors' God. In fact, their ancestors would kill them for worshipping an alien God. Literally, they would be like, "What the hell are you guys doing? Who the hell is this dude?" So, has it helped people? Not so far. Now we come to the second major point of Christianity. So Judaism has split into Christianity and Islam. There are two offshoots of Judaism, and Judaism still exists. Christianity doesn't appeal to everybody because, again, it goes back to the same points that we have been talking about. You have an inherent belief that goes contrary to nature, but you really want to believe it, like a child, like a naive, innocent, altruistic child, that all races are equal, all people are equal, and they can all be saved if you just teach them enough and you tell them to do the right thing. It's very childish, very altruistic and naive, very high trust, which again comes back to all the qualities of European genetics. And they get higher and higher as you go into Northwest Europe and Scandinavia, because they adapted under certain conditions, and those conditions hold when everybody looks like you. But they break down immediately when there is a significant genetic drift, there's significant racial difference. So Christianity was adopted by these people. Their kings forced them to adopt Christianity, and over generations they were like, yeah, you know what, the message isn't so bad. It somewhat aligns with what we're saying. So we're basically going to write more and more books. The Bible has many books. And basically it's a bunch of like Europeans writing about their interpretation of the word of God, which basically comes back full circle to they're doing exactly what they're doing before they were Christians, building a high trust society, hoping everybody else is as honest as them, being altruistic, all good qualities, being naively childish about racial differences, with this hope that everybody can be saved, which is a good hope. But again, it forgets that this doesn't really apply to everybody. For example, it's like saying basketball players in the NBA who are overwhelmingly African would say that we hope that by our missionary work, everybody around the world will become an NBA player and be great at basketball. It's going to work for a tiny percentage of maybe Europeans or Orientals or South Americans and South Asians, but it's going to absolutely fail with the vast majority of these population groups because they're just not racially built for that sport, right? So Christianity takes that a step further and says it doesn't matter whether you're racially built for it or not, as long as you believe in God, which is basically saying you ignore God's creation of the natural order to believe in God, which is nonsensical on the face of it. So as long as you believe in God, you're going to be saved. You're going to be saved by God, and we'll welcome you in our community. So even after the kings were off, Christianity spread because it was tweaked, and its major message of this denial of racial reality appeals to Europeans the most. Secondly, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam have another feature that is quite interesting, in which it, again, remember, it ignores the racial realities and attributes everything to religion. This also ties in dangerously with the kind of people who adopt Christianity over Judaism or Islam, because these people are inherently genetically altruistic, so they have a need and a belief and a need and a requirement to believe that other people are going to be like them, similar like them. We're all the same. Deep down, we're all alike. No, we're not. Genetics is hard-coded. The vast majority of people are hard-coded into their behavior. Like 90% of people are NPCs. If you think about it, they don't have an internal monologue. So Christianity progressed, and because it derives from Judaism, attributes to the religion the qualities of the race. For example, people say today, and this is very honest discussion, but Christians say, Christianity made this, Christianity made that, Christianity had so much progress. All right, let's pause the brakes for a second, Mr. Christian over there. There was a humongously successful Roman Empire before it was Christian. There was a humongously successful Greek Empire before there was Christianity. There was a humongously successful Spartan Empire before there was Christianity. There was an ancient Egyptian empire. There was a Mesopotamian empire. There was a Levantine empire, a Sumerian empire, a Babylonian empire before there was Christianity. And nothing to talk about, there was an Aryan empire, a Indo-Aryan empire, and an Iranian-Aryan empire, the Persian empire, before there was Christianity. There was the Japanese and the ancient Chinese empires before there was Christianity. There was Aztec and Mayan empire before there was Christianity. And these are different races, right? But even in your races, there were massively more successful empires before there was Christianity. The Greek Empire lasted a lot longer than any of your Christian empires. Today, when the Greek Empire fell, there was the Byzantine Empire, the Roman Empire, the Eastern Roman Church, the Western Roman Church. Before that was the Greeks, the Spartans, the Trojans. There were so many empires. If one fell, another empire rose to take its place, but the people were the same. They were similar. The races were similar. Today, you have no empires. There are no empires left in any Christian countries. Their kings are figureheads with no power. And if required, they can be deposed or executed, which has literally happened since 1649 when King Charles I was executed in England. And then it's just a long list of kings being executed and beheaded and assassinated, ending with the Tsar of Russia in the Bolshevik Revolution. Again, the Tsar of Russia was Christian. He was assassinated by an organized Bolshevik party, most of which was made up by Jewish people. So even among these religions, the Jews are more honest about the race realities of religion. So if we look at the span of the success of Christianity, and it started 2,000 years ago, but a lot of European empires did not convert until the 10th century AD, 9th century, 11th, 12th. So it wasn't like Christianity came and bam. For the first 200, 300 years, so 200, 300 AD, Christians were persecuted massively. It wasn't until like the 7th, 8th, and 9th century that slowly people started actually converting. And it really ramped up in the 10th and 11th centuries. Right, so 1,000, 1,100 years of empire. And at the end of 1,000, 1,100 years, it has been completely subverted by its adversaries and people who hate this religion. It has broken up into multiple denominations. Like the Muslims have like two denominations, two major denominations, Shia and Sunni. Christianity is like so many unlimited ones. And Judaism, it might have multiple denominations, but at the end they act the same, and actions speak louder than words. So out of these three, only Christianity has just broken up completely. They are non-denominational churches, which means they're not a church at all. They break every law in their own Bible. Because again, Christianity by itself is descended from a religion that ignores race realities, ignores the laws of nature, trying to trick God into saying, we are going to ignore the laws of your creation because we believe in you, which makes no absolute sense at all. So it's disrespect to the God by saying, it's not disrespect, trust me, bro, we believe in you. It also believes in absolutism, that our God is the only God. It confuses the creator of the universe with the God in their books, whereas it refuses to research. And these are all three of these religions. Maybe the Jews are more honest about it, but they absolutely refuse to do the research. And where exactly did this God that you're praising come from? Like, there has to be some kind of God that this God came from, because you are confusing in your mind the creator of the universe with the God that is in your religious book. That's not the case at all. This God came from a bunch of gods. He won. He won. And there's a desert God. It's not even the God of your peoples. So, overall, with all of these flaws, the biggest flaw that Christianity has is that it tends to attract the kind of people who are naive and high trust and absolutely refuse to a fatal degree to believe in the natural order, natural law, and the difference in races and peoples. And that has resulted in them attributing to the religion what should be attributed to their race. This is the basic thing and the basic disagreement that any realist will have with any of these three religions. Do not attribute to your religion what should be attributed to your race. We can talk about the different peoples in Islam. Saudi Arabia, Pakistan or Bangladesh, they're all Muslim, maybe, and they're all Sunni Muslim, right? But we have a better example. There are multiple African nations who are absolutely Christian and absolute shitholes. Because you can't divorce the race. You can't divorce the race from the religion. God is not going to come in and go to the Congo and suddenly be like, bam, you're like Germany now. It's not going to happen. That's not how he designed the world. The Creator didn't design the world like that. And you're basically being an idiot by insulting the Creator and saying, we're going to ignore your design. Because somebody, we say, was his son, told us to ignore your design. If my son went out in the world and told everybody to ignore the design that I created, I'd be mad. I'd be like, what's wrong with you? What are you talking about, dude? So anyway, at the end of 1,000 years of Christianity's ascendance, most Christian countries are being invaded. They lose the battle psychologically. They keep making the same mistakes. And this all boils down to race. It is a perfect weapon to defeat a naive, childish, idealistic, but very, very competent, intelligent race. Intelligent but not wise. Because if you can be subverted to a degree where you went from 52% of the world's population, which was Europeans, to 8% of the world's population in less than 100 years, in 2 world wars, then the religion that you're following is not really helping you. Because the religion that you're following is divorced from your racial gods. There is no Odin in your religion, there is no Wotan in your religion, there is no Perun in your religion, there is no Perkunas in your religion, there is no Thor in your religion, there is no Athena in your religion. There is no Anubis in your religion, or Set or Thoth. There are no Enlil and Enkis in your religion. There are no Ishtaras in your religion. And these are all of the religions of your ancestors. None of these are racially your religions. What you do, and every other race does it, you paint Jesus Christ in your image. Jesus Christ was half Jewish too. These people are Middle Eastern people with the predominance of dark hair and dark eyes. But you go to any Scandinavian church and Jesus is blue-eyed blonde and super white. You go to Africa, Jesus is black as hell. You go to South America, Jesus is brown. Because that's what people do. They make their gods in their image. Even the paintings and representations of Jesus among different cultural denominations is telling you the reality. Race is hard-coded. You cannot just paint a varnish of religion over it. It doesn't matter. When it comes down to war between, for example, the US and Mexico, Mexicans might be as Catholic as the Americans, but they will still kill you because you are a different race. And especially if you're living in a multicultural Christian country, which is not going to be Christian very soon, you can go into these different churches. No one is going to stop you. Go into a white church, go into a brown church, go into an Oriental church, go into a black church and see how they portray Jesus. You're not going to find a blonde, blue-eyed Jesus in a black church. And you're not going to find a black Jesus in a white church. Most of the time. You can't come to, again, I know some exceptions don't disprove the rule. Exceptions don't really make any difference at all. Most of the time in these kind of situations, at all. So you're not going to do this. You're not going to find a black Jesus in a white church and a white Jesus in a black church because it's a racial alien they're looking at. If you're going to basically make these people believe in a religion that doesn't believe in race, the one thing you do have to do is you have to paint the Messiah in their image. Because again, race is bigger and more important than religion. So if we look at the honesty of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and The features of Judaism of being race blind, everybody can be saved, just convince everybody by words, and our way is the highway. If you don't if you don't belong to us, you're going to hell. Jews do definitely say this openly. We're the chosen one, everybody else is not chosen. Christians say this too. If you believe in Christ, you go to heaven. If you don't believe in Christ, you go to hell. Islam says it too. If you believe in Allah, you go to heaven. If you don't believe in Allah, which is literally their word for God. That's it. Allah is not some different God. You have to understand, right? It's all Jewish religion. So whether you call him God in English, Gott in German, or Allah in Arabic, or Elohim in the Torah, it's the same God. You're just focusing on the difference in the language and the race and the language. So if you, as a Christian, are chanting bad things about the word Allah, you're basically insulting your own God. If you, as a Muslim, are chanting bad things about the Christian God, you're insulting your own God. And if we stick strictly to what original Judaism is of Moses, we're not talking about the Talmud and all the other Baal and Moloch worship, which interestingly, Baal and Moloch are from the same pantheon that the Jewish, Christian, and Muslim God is from. That God is literally the king of those gods. The Baal and Moloch are part of that pantheon. You idiots don't understand this, right? You're like, oh my God, they worship Baal and Moloch. Well, guess what, dude? Your God is from that pantheon. He rules over these guys. Right? So, in the long term, in just 1,000 years, we are seeing that out of all these three religions, Christianity is the most permissive. It has the fatal defect of ignoring reality, ignoring race, the defect of trying to paint itself as ignoring the natural law, natural order, and the difference of races because God said it's cool and God's Son said it was cool. So basically, ignore God's creation to praise God. Stupid, it makes no sense. It also believes in being supreme, chosen, and if you don't believe or you're not part of the group, you're going to go to hell and get punished. It also believes in coercion, first by incessantly trying to convince you or then conquering you. Like there is in these three religions, Judaism is a little more selective now. But in Christianity and Islam, there is no option where they let people be. Like, oh, there is a person who's not a Christian or a Muslim, I have to convert him or he's going to go to hell. You know, that person's like, that's cool, bro. My religion doesn't say that if you don't believe in my racial gods, you're going to hell. You know, so I'm cool with you. I don't know why you have a problem in that if I don't believe in your God, I'm going to hell. And again, this goes back to the ancestors of these Christians. They didn't believe in these gods either. They had to come up with an entire mythology to justify why those ancestors weren't going to hell. For the 7,500 years of recorded history, and it's only going to get longer, Christianity has been around for 1,000 years. At the end of 1,000 years, Greeks were still Greeks. At the end of 1,000 years of the Babylonian Empire, the Babylonians were still Babylonians. At the end of 1,000 years of the Roman Empire, the Romans were still the Romans. But at the end of 1,000 years of Christianity, there is no definition for Christians. They're spread across 1,000 tribes, 1,000 churches across the world, and they keep trying to attribute the great qualities of their races to the religion. Congo is a shithole, a Christian shithole. Why? Because God deemed it to be a shithole. Sweden is a Christian, Sweden used to be a Christian paradise. Why? Because God deemed it to be paradise. It is nonsensical. And as Christianity breaks down, we can see a lot of Europeans are going to go back to the reality, which is that race is paramount, genetics are paramount, and Christianity has just been not really useful, shoved down our throats, and it is in combat. It is in adversarial positions to the laws of nature and to reality. Judgment on Christianity, has it been useful to the Christians and the people who adopted it? Well, most of the Middle East people who adopted it are now Muslim countries, Morocco, Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon. They were all these Christian countries. So Christianity completely failed them. And most of the European countries who are Christian are being destroyed from within. So no, The end result is, out of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, Christianity has not been good for the people who have adopted it. Christianity has not been useful for the people who have adopted it. And until you realize that you are conflating the creator of all reality with your God, you are never going to divorce yourself from this mythology. Do you understand? Even your racial gods, even if you go back to the Scandinavian gods, right? Where you have a great serpent and he is responsible for churning out a lot of things from a great flood that happened. Even those are quite honest and they attribute the creation of the world to their gods. But they don't just say, like, yes, he's the creator of everything everywhere. Please understand, or don't, that you are confusing the creator of the universe with your localized God. And if you are a Jew, a Christian, or a Muslim, because all of you come from the same basic thought process, really do your research on who exactly is your God. What's his name? Where did he come from? Which assembly of gods did he rule over? And how this is related to you by your blood. And after that, if you want to say, you know what, my ancestors worship my racial gods, but I'm going to give them up to worship Christ. And I am going to believe in the fact that everybody can be saved. So I'm basically going to believe in the breaking the natural law and natural order of things in praise of the creator who made it. Then that's fine. You're absolutely free to do it. Because at least then it'll be a choice that you have made after having all the information. But if you can't even name your God, if you don't even know the historical name of your God, it has been lost, then you are basically following another religion that has nothing to do with your race, your genetics, how you adapted, what your ancestors believed in, and why they were so successful. And if you leave the successful qualities of your ancestors behind and their successful tradition behind, you will die and you will fail. No European nation had a problem with population collapse when they were praising their own gods. They had fertility goddesses in Rome, in Greece, in ancient Egypt, in Mesopotamia. You have nothing like that at all. You have one God. Great for unification, but look at where you have been led after 1,000 years. From world conquerors, the majority of humanity, to the minority of humanity who is going to get smaller. After all this, it is completely up to you to believe in whatever religion you want to believe in. But from a very objective standpoint, Christianity has, the only good thing Christianity has done from an objective standpoint is it has propelled Jews into positions of power. Because again, Christians are just a theological debate within Judaism. It's one rabbi, Jesus Christ, disagreeing with all the other rabbis in his time. And Islam is also from that same religion, just tweaked a little more orderly. We will go towards Islam in one of the next videos. So, if after all of this, you're happy to continue down the same path, please do so. But Christianity itself has not been, in any way, shape, or form, at the end of 1,000 years, a net benefit to the people who actually adopted it. Hell, people from places like India, who believe in a completely different religion, are outbreeding you. It might not be the best kind of people, but understand, the creator of the universe, right? He's above your God, your desert God that you're praising. He has designed the universe in a certain way. He has designed this world in a certain way. He has designed the entire natural order in a certain way, and the natural order doesn't really care about what you believe if you don't breed. So people who don't believe in your gods at all, they don't believe in an Islamic God, a Christian God, or a Jewish God, they're going to outbreed you. And if they outbreed you, boom, that's the end. The Chinese don't believe in any of these religions. They're outbreeding you. Africans, they believe in any religion because it doesn't really matter to them. Africans are very, very honest to biology in that they understand that race is above everything. It doesn't matter if they're Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist. They understand that an African, as an African, they are separate from the other races and they behave accordingly. They're honest. Right? South Americans. Today they're Christian, tomorrow they might be Muslim. The end result is if your religion has led to a collapse of your identity, you are not going to survive, and that religion is not of benefit to you. Until next time, take this very controversial, maybe for you, take from WAYDE and think about it. But keep it cool, keep it smart, and as always, in WAYDE world, enjoy.